What's up, you son of a guns? My name is Hovac, and today we're gonna play a very weird game. It's a visual novel. It's called Echoes Tokyo. I hope you're gonna enjoy it. It's something new I'm doing for 2018, and let's start it. Okay, bros, we're back again. We're gonna do the second story, Keiji Light Origins. We did the first one. It was like weird and stuff, but hey, let's do this.
It's the hunger I remember most.
It's a dude.
It wasn't hunger in the sense of the constant hollow ache in the pit of my gut.
Ooh.
That kept me up at night, sure. But it wasn't what stuck with me. It was just the fear.
Fear of what?
The fear that the next meal wasn't going to come.
Oh.
Or that it would be taken from me. Have you ever seen a stray cat eat?
Yeah.
Big ravenous gulps. Devouring more than their stomachs can possibly hold.
Because they know they might not get another meal.
If you have, then you've seen that kind of fear.
Oh.
I was a kid having an existential crisis. Knowing I could fade out of the world and no one would be the wiser. It's probably not how most kids remember their childhood. I hope it's not. But it's how the kids I grew up with learned to live, out there in the slums.
Uh-oh.
I guess they raised me when I couldn't raise myself.
Oh god.
I certainly didn't have any parents today.
It's the slums, bros.
Not even a memory to tell me what happened to them.
He's a slummy person.
It used to bother me. I would sit and wonder if I had gotten lost one day. Just, did my mother have a sweet smile and tuck me into a warm bed? Did somebody even look for me?
No. You've been abandoned.
I didn't have a lot of time to dwell on thoughts like that. And it was probably for the better. Having no parents meant having nothing real to miss. Now I suspect the blunt truth is colder and typical. My parents are either dead or indifferent.
Okay.
It's all the same, really. And I didn't go without family. In the slums, even us parentless kids had our own little gang. Our own rules we used to survive in the Sky City. The slummers gave us a bunch of names.
Okay.
Scavengers, rats, cloud kids.
Cloud kids is good.
Cloud kids because we each seemed to drop out of a cloud one day.
Uh-huh.
Just appearing and drifting through, never settling.
Okay.
Rats because people are assholes.
Yep.
And scavengers because it was a more polite term for thieves, and we were just kids trying to survive. I thought it was a pretty typical existence for a long time. Turns out, I've never had what anyone would consider a typical existence. I figured that out eventually. But at the time, I only knew a few things. I was always hungry. I was always tired. And my name was Keiji.
Keiji.
Did I give myself that name, or did they?
I have no
Is
idea.
it the only gift I was ever given by my parents? I don't know. And on the streets, you learn to pretend not to care. It wasn't a pretty life. It wasn't easy or even enjoyable. But I had friends. Friends who I grew up with. I guess, for the sake of some neutral ground with normal childhoods, I would have called them siblings. They served that role among many. Mentors, playmates, rivals, all the necessary honesty and cruelty that kids are born with.
Kids are cruel when they're... no emotions.
We all played a part in surviving. An impossible chore for any one person out in the slums. But a group of us, well, we managed. We were the closest thing to family any of us felt we would ever get, so we made the most out of it. But nothing can make that nagging, gut-wrenching fear dissipate. On the streets or not, I was just a kid, and I wasn't ready at all for what was about to happen.
Cops!
The car skid to a stop only a few feet from us. It glistened in the light, pristine and fast. Obviously from the core city. Usually we'd be wary of anything involving the core, but excited chattering broke out among us as the doors started to open. You never saw cars like that here in the slums, not unless they were stolen, and even then they didn't last long. That was when we noticed the uniforms and the guns.
Uh-oh.
A man in a long white coat gestured toward us.
These.
What? Oh my god.
Suddenly wary, we hung back a bit. We knew danger when we saw it, and we were threatened often enough to avoid anything involving weapons. Adding core people into the mix was like setting off a siren warning of incoming trouble. But the soldiers approached us amicably, asking for information about a notorious weapons trader in the area. It wasn't the first time we'd been approached for information. It was just as valuable as the food and junk parts you pulled out of a trash bin. Sometimes more so since it didn't smell. It was easy to overhear things when no one took any notice of you. One of the oldest boys and a self-proclaimed leader stepped forward to deal with him, the rest of us watching curiously. We were promised something in return for any details we could give, and the negotiations were underway. I didn't listen. The conversation may as well have taken place on another planet. No, my eyes never left the scientist in the white uniform. Something about his reflected gaze causing a chill to grip my chest. I couldn't see his eyes.
He looks like a weirdo.
But something told me they were looking straight at me.
The eyes.
That was when the gunshots ran out.
Uh-oh.
Without our notice, the soldiers had slowly surrounded us on each side and penned us in. The screams seemed even louder than the gunfire, the terror rooting me to the spot. I remember the disbelief, the astounded impossibility of what was happening weighing down on me. They were my friends. My family. Some were shot on sight, as if on the soldiers' sudden whims.
Uh-oh.
I watched them fall, gunned down one by one in the street without rhyme or reason. Others were assaulted, beaten down into bruised heaps of submission. It flickers in front of my eyes still, the sight of limp bodies with slow sanguine blood pooling at their sides. My instincts pulled at my heavy and unresponsive limbs until I finally managed to turn to actually move. But the cold barrel of a gun pressed against the back of my neck, the hair bristling in response. Rendered entirely still, I stared forward, straight at the man in the white uniform. All the blood and all the chaos. But he still looked back at me. Even there, with a gun pressed to my neck, and the sounds of my friends dying in agony. He seemed like the biggest threat. And then he walked toward me. His stride took him around me, and out of my line of sight for a moment. That was maddening, the not knowing. Even the feeling of the metal left my skin, the gun barrel seeming to rethink its judgment and release me. My knees trembling like jelly, I started to slowly look over my shoulder.
This one.
Uh-oh.
Towering above me, the scientist grabbed me roughly, a hand clamping over my head. I turned my head to glare up at the man, who seemed impossibly tall and sinister. I surprised myself then, when all my fear evaporated. It turned to rage. In the most powerful motion a scrawny, underfed boy could muster, I slammed my fist squarely into his chest. I was repaid in kind when the stiff toe of a boot connected under my ribcage. Too thin to have much weight to me, the kick was enough to send me twisting into the air briefly. The shadow of a gun passed over me, where I knelt on the ground and gasped for every breath that wouldn't come.
No!
A high, insidious voice interrupted. The man in white pushed his guard dog back.
This is one we're taking.
Oh god.
We can't fault the boy for being spirited.
I didn't know what that meant then. What did they want with us? What did anyone want with us? With kids?
I have no idea!
Still reeling from the attack. I couldn't fight back when the strong arm grabbed me around the waist. I only really acknowledged what was happening when I felt the needle slide into my skin.
Oh my god, he injected something in my neck.
I didn't know what it was I had been injected with. But it did its job fast, I'm guessing, since that was the last memory I have of the massacre. There wasn't anything I could have done then. And for a long time, I didn't even feel bad about what happened. I didn't have the luxury. I woke up to pain.
Oh my god, what is that?
Not once mine. Every time I woke up, it was because of pain. I didn't know where I was or what was happening. The sting of the whip biting into and removing flesh made it impossible to think.
What the hell?
Every few minutes it would happen. The seemingly random lash that would carve out a new scar.
What the hell is going
the pain
on?
Was unbearable. A splitting agony that felt like fire. My whole body became a raw nerve. Arms, back, torso, legs. They spared no part of me from the senseless whippings.
Uh-oh. Wait, let me just take the camera up here. Continue. See the whipping!
I wasn't alone. Aside from my attacker, there were the others they had taken too.
What the hell?
It would have been a relief knowing I wasn't the sole survivor. If this wasn't the hell we had woken up in.
This is child abuse.
I heard their screams. Once I was aware enough to realize they weren't just phantom echoes of my own. When I mustered enough strength to raise my head, I saw another boy restrained close to where I was. When I tried to call out to him, though, it resulted in a lashing so severe I either passed out or don't remember it. I just remember waking up from it, immobile, and wondering, half hoping, how much blood it took to bleed to death. Too much. I don't know how long it lasted. There never seemed to be any reason to it, no method. Once the pain had broken you, that became the maddening part. The why. Occasionally I would see the scientists gazing at us from behind glass. It was like they feared approaching us might get blood on their pristine white coats. I didn't know what they wanted, and it was a folly to ask. I just knew I envied my friends, the ones who had been left dying in the street. And the thought of feeling horrified about what had happened to them, in that moment, it would have made me laugh. Then one day, the routine stopped. It was almost as distressing as when it had started. To suddenly lose the pain.
Weird.
All the sensation that had been familiar. All the ways I had learned to quantify time in this windowless place. It was gone. And somehow that was terrifying. Even my wounds were healed without explanation. Hideous marks were left behind. Deep grooves of skin forming little ridges and valleys of hard scar tissue.
Oh god.
But the worst of the pain had gone. More had changed than just my beaten body, as I was taken to a wide open room I had never seen. I drank in every sight, pleased to see anything I didn't recognize. I wasn't foolish enough to be excited, though. I doubt I would have even been capable of such a thing. A man approached me, wielding a weapon in each large fist. I had learned better than to speak without first being questioned, and despite the obvious threat, I regarded him in silence. Without even being aware of it, I waited for instruction, harboring the anxiety of failure, of more torture. In many ways, I had been stripped down into some creature I didn't recognize.
Oh god.
Something basic and primal composed my nature now. Suddenly, an intercom squealed to life with breathy static and a squealing hum. A voice that sent a shiver up my spine filled the room. That same high tone that had been permanently etched into my mind.
You have one very simple mission. Survive.
Ooh.
Good luck.
That was it. There were no more instructions. No more explanation. I didn't ask for one. My gaze leveling on the man. Predictably, he charged
Oh my
at
god,
me,
I grew up!
a blade clutched in each hand. I don't remember deciding to fight. Even if letting this man cut me down where I stood would have probably been the smart thing to do. The only way out. I didn't do it. Instead, I moved faster than he could have dreamed, and swung my fist right into his gut. I
Okay.
didn't fight with any grace or technique. I fought the only way I learned to fight. To punch the hardest, and feel the least. It may have been clumsy and desperate, but it wasn't ineffective. The overcompensating dual wielding didn't save him. A second blow. This time a sturdy strike to the neck, and the man's head snapped back.
That is, weird.
He didn't offer to get back up. Knocked out cold.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Oh god.
Maybe even I underestimated your potential.
I didn't know what was coming next, or what this madman was talking about. I ignored the phantom praise he offered up over the intercom.
That is
Abruptly,
weird.
the door slammed open, and guards flooded the room, guns held in their hands as if I was some threat to them. They surrounded me on every side, crowding me back, entire body stiff. I eyed them warily, like a trapped animal ready to fight. But they said nothing.
Okay.
It was the damnable voice over the intercom that took charge.
You've won the fight, but you haven't passed the test. It's time to finish the job. Do it!
The job? I glanced back briefly to the prone body that lay
Oh,
still and
you want to
unthreateningly
kill
on
him.
the floor. The phantom image of my slain friend seemed to stutter across my vision. That felt like another lifetime ago, but it was still there. That long-held memory. And with more resolve than I knew I had left in me, I planted my feet firmly and said nothing.
I said finish the job.
Oh,
Or
God.
you'll wish you hadn't succeeded at all.
Uh-oh.
Maybe I'd forgotten how to be afraid too.
Oh.
Or maybe I was just bullheaded beyond all reason, and they still hadn't knocked it out of me yet. But surrounded by these murderers, I knew there was one thing separating me from them.
Don't kill.
It wasn't the scars or the captivity. It was that I had never killed anyone. I shook my head stubbornly, denying the order and focusing my full intention, that memory. That strong, horrific memory. If that was what it took to keep me a little human, I'd cling to it no matter how much it hurt to hold. And in silence, I waited for my punishment. I was kept waiting long anyway. The butt of the gun collided with the back of my head in a solid strike. I was out before I hit the floor. Ah!
What the hell? What the hell are they doing
That
to
was
him?
how I woke up.
They ripped his spine.
Nothing they had done to me before this point could have prepared me for that kind of pain. Ripped open and alive when I shouldn't have been.
Oh God.
Immobilized but feeling.
Oh
I
God.
thought, at first, I was being killed off for disobedience, but that was a little too optimistic, I guess. Initially, I had felt everything. The edge of a sharp scalpel, the grinding of bone. The air even smelled like blood as I gasped for it. But then, after grueling minutes, I thought I wouldn't survive. The pain was gone, and I felt nothing at all. My body itself felt unbound. My skin and the air around it no different. And that was the best I had felt in a very long time. And then I saw what they were doing.
Uh-oh.
The ominous metal spinal column was lowered down carefully.
Uh-oh.
Then it passed out of my sight again. I was trapped in this strange, unending nightmare that I couldn't comprehend. And much like a dream, things simply happened to me. Nonsensical. Random. Impossible. None of that mattered here. A bit of preliminary feeling flooded my veins. Less pain this time. And the strange bulky sensation of something moving in my back. The sensation of tugging and stretching. The vibration of something sliding into place.
Oh God.
I tested my movement again, which had returned to me a little. It took monumental effort just to raise my hand the little bit I could. I hadn't felt the restraints earlier, but they were there, clamped around my wrists and ankles. I couldn't go anywhere even if I wanted to.
His body seems to be responding well.
I couldn't make sense of the readings the doctor was looking at. My vision too blurry and mind too numb. But I guess I didn't disappoint.
Close him up.
My memory fades out here, leaving nothing but odd sensations and mismatched pieces of dialogue. Everything
God.
starts to get hazy. I just remember one phrase for certain,
The surgery was a success.
Oh God.
and then there I was. Which might have meant something, if I knew where there was at the time. I was woozy on my feet, the forceful grip that had guided me there suddenly leaving me as I glared against the bright lights. Disoriented and still sluggish from what felt like an eternity of sleep, my back felt stiff, the skin pulling and hard to move.
Oh
But
God.
at least it didn't hurt. I heard the intercom turn on, and suddenly I knew. That same voice, even the same words. I was awake in a split second, as if someone had run a current of electricity through my veins.
You have one very simple mission. Survive.
What?
Survive. As if I'd been doing anything else. The horror of the surgery had finally crept back into my mind, but I couldn't focus on that now. It There was another arena, not unlike the first. Only this time, I wasn't exactly dressed the part. Great.
Oh my god.
I think you'll find this a rather interesting challenge.
The voice wasn't wrong, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I was pitifully outnumbered. I recognized some of those faces, much as they had changed, even with sunken eyes, wild eyes, and muscled, scarred bodies. They were some of the boys I grew up with. It stirred something in me, a piece of myself that I'd been dwelling over during all that time in recovery, suspended somewhere between death and sleep, with nothing but the past to escape into. Did the scientist really think that I'd change my stance on killing? That I'd bow to his whim?
Okay.
Attack!
Attack!
In one savage motion, the group lunged toward me like animals on the hunt. There was nothing left of their old selves, not a hint of empathy or recognition for me. They followed the order, the way I was expected to follow the order. And even if I wouldn't play the part of a willing puppet, I was not going to stand around and get myself slaughtered. I was too wary of pain to let that happen. So when a man twice my size rushed in first, I slammed my fist forward. The bone broke against my knuckles like glass.
Oh
my fist
my
meeting
god.
something mushy and fleshy within. Everything simply caved beneath my hand.
Oh my god.
I can still feel it. The phantom sensation of passing my hand through bone and muscle and teeth.
Oh god.
I didn't mean to do it. I didn't even know how I did. The assailant slumped backwards, his face so broken it was unidentifiable, and pieces of his brain were flecked across the floor.
Okay.
But the others didn't stop charging, not even registering the death. They were a single-minded swarm. And no matter how hard I tried, so was I. I couldn't stop fighting them. My body just reacted. Every punch catastrophic. Every kick enough to shatter bone. Whatever they did to me in that surgery, I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it. As if every part of my body was enhanced. But maybe that's not the worst of it.
Uh-oh.
The worst of it was that I couldn't feel bad about it.
Oh my god, he ripped them apart.
I couldn't feel much of anything anymore. Even when I stared at the bodies prone on the floor. I didn't want to kill them. I knew it was wrong. Now I was a murderer. I had taken life, and I could never undo it. Never unbecome it. But I searched for the guilt, the dread, and the fear. I knew what I should be feeling, but it simply wasn't there. Was that what it meant to be broken? Did they finally succeed, I wondered? Behind me, a door opened. I recognized the surgeon, now dressed again in the standard science uniform used at the facility.
Come on, Keiji.
He knows his
His
name.
hand rested on my shoulder, as if we were not standing among the bodies of people I had slaughtered.
Let's go back to the cells.
And I followed him. I could have fought back.
Okay.
Could have killed the scientist without even trying. So why the hell didn't I? These were the thoughts that plagued my mind when I was returned to my plain functional cell. The scenes played over and over again in my head. The sound of bones crunching so distinct.
Oh
I
god.
should have been repulsed, but wasn't. I didn't understand it, but it made me feel physically sick to even think about attacking the scientist. My fingers twitched at my side, blood still visible under my nails. Eventually, though, I started to piece it together as I sat there. When the scientist put his hand on my shoulder, he thought I was complicit. He thought I was trying to kill them. They didn't realize. Whatever they tried to do to me, it only half succeeded.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't powerless anymore, and wasn't sticking around to see what happened when they figured out the truth. I just needed a plan. Preferably even a plan that didn't involve killing.
Okay.
It just involved a little destruction. The blood streamed out of my knuckles, but the punch left a sizable dent. I didn't feel much pain. I haven't felt the same since the surgery. as if my tolerance for everything was unusually high. Like a blanket of snow was cast over my ability to feel, muting everything.
Okay.
Maybe that would come in handy. Punch after punch dented the metal further, until there was a rending of metal. I'd been in that cell long enough to puzzle out how it worked. Even though I'd never seen the technology, I'd heard the currents that run through the walls when the door opens. To say that I didn't know exactly what I was doing was an understatement, but I'd gathered up enough scrap metal as a kid to know the basics of how things worked, and how to get them working again. So maybe, I thought, with more luck than skill, I could get the door open. I ripped through wires as I found them, indiscriminate and savage. I was waiting, hoping that one of them would short-circuit the door and trigger it open. Well, I certainly messed up something. A low electrical pitch slowly growing louder and louder. I should have taken that as a sign. The explosion took me by surprise. Metal shrapnel went flying, cutting into my skin and hands, and the sheer force of it knocked me back several feet. I shouldn't have come out of it unscathed. But my clothes were more wounded than me. And when I saw exactly what had happened, well, I didn't need to get the door open after all. Smoke filled the corridor as I stepped out into it, sirens wailing loudly through the facility. I blinked at my freedom for a few moments, trying to come to terms with it. It had been a long time since I had known what it was like to make my own choices, but I lingered too long, and turned toward the abrupt sound of footsteps. One of the scientists. Like a coward, he turned to flee. No doubt to summon help and reinforcements.
No.
Moving on instinct, I charged after him. I couldn't let him get away, and I didn't want to kill him, not after what had already happened. But he would tell others if I let him go.
Get him!
I slammed my foot into the back of his leg, feeling the bone break against the strike. But with impressive control, or maybe shock, he turned as he fell. The volts of the stun device jarred through my body, tensing every muscle, and making it rigid beyond moving. The metal in my spine rendered me almost immobile. But I pushed through it, fighting against the tension in my own muscles, and with one huge effort, broke free.
Oh god.
I lunged for the scientist without reservation, fury flowing through my veins with the white-hot electricity.
Oh, that's weird.
And with a motion of sheer desperation and rage, my hands twisted his neck sharply.
That's not good.
Unlike the others, it didn't come without resistance, requiring a true effort to twist the skull out of place.
Oh god!
And then I realized why.
His head exploded.
Smoke and sparks erupted from his neck, as the technology in him shorted out. A similar technology to what was in me, I guess.
Oh.
Were they all like that? Were any of them as dangerous, as powerful as I was? A commotion attracted my attention. A stream of men suddenly manifesting through an open door. They tried to corner me, and all I could see when I looked at them were casualties. More and more casualties. A pile of bodies steadily growing and adding weight to my shoulders. I had to get out of there. So I ran. I ran until I hit something I had long since forgotten about. Sunlight. It filled up my vision, glinting off the edge of every building, and gleaming in the reflective windows. There were colors and hues I had forgotten about. The chaos and bloodshed behind me was forgotten. As I took it, I could have collapsed then and there, in the overwhelming relief and phased confusion that befell me. Who was I now? What was I? I didn't know. But I was free. The facility at my back loomed over me, but I ran. Ran until I was out of its shadow entirely. I didn't know where I was going, or who I was now. It took a long time, building up a new life for myself when I had never even had one in the first place. And in some ways, I still don't know anything about who I am, or what I feel. But I'm figuring it out. The more I think back on that place, and the things I did while I was there, the more it unsettles me. I left it standing. Sometimes when I'm out, I see a band of boys sitting idly around the streets, hungry and wary and rough. That had been me once. Would a car pull up to them one day, and armed soldiers round them all up? Would they slaughter or experiment on them? When I was there, all I wanted was to be anywhere else. And now that I'm out, well,
No.
I'm working on that plan.
There's a gun. Oh my god! We finished it? Well, that was a nice story. There is no choices to make. It was... Actually, I like the story. It's not bad at all. But I still don't understand why they took him. Why they took him and why they tortured him. For what's the reason? How did this novel just end like this? It's like a damn cliffhanger. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay. If you want to watch more of well, it's not gameplay, this says this visual novel. If you want to watch more visual novels, please do subscribe, give me a thumbs up, reshare my video, leave a comment, turn the notification bell on so you can get all of my new uploads. Bros, I definitely want to see you back again in my next gameplay. Bye bye, son of a guns. Bye bye. Oh my god, I'm done. Weirdo. Okay.